One decision, 1 second, one camera rolling. That's all it took. Because when something goes wrong on live television, there is no rewind button, no warning label, no delay long enough to save a life. Tonight, these are the most horrific deaths ever caught on live TV. Moments where viewers watched in real time as excitement, pressure, or routine suddenly turned irreversible. Number 7. The reporter who never made it back. It was August 15, 2014 in Wayne County, New Jersey. The man on screen was a seasoned television news reporter, mid-30s, standing along a rain-slicked highway. His assignment was simple: cover traffic conditions during a powerful storm system moving through the area. He wanted clean audio, steady framing, and a clear shot of passing cars to show how dangerous the roads had become. The sky was low and gray. Wind pushed rain sideways. Headlights streaked across wet asphalt. The sound of tires cutting through standing water filled the microphone. Behind him, traffic moved faster than it should have. There was a moment, visible on the footage, when a car hydroplaned in the distance. It corrected. Barely. The reporter glanced back, then returned his eyes to the camera. What he didn't realize was that another vehicle had already lost control closer than anyone thought. Footage shows the car sliding sideways, spinning across lanes with no traction. The driver overcorrected. The vehicle jumped the shoulder. There was no barrier, no warning. In less than 3 seconds, the car entered the frame. The impact happened mid-sentence. The camera slammed to the ground. Audio captured shouting, scrambling. A producer yelling from the control room to cut the feed. The broadcast went black. Emergency crews arrived within minutes. The reporter was pronounced dead at the scene from blunt force trauma. The aftermath was immediate. The station pulled the footage. Highway-side live reporting policies were revised. Safety distances were increased. Some stations banned roadside stand-ups entirely during severe weather. But for viewers who saw it live, the lesson was already burned in. Danger doesn't wait for the segment to end. But the next death didn't happen on a highway. It happened in a place built for spectacle. Number 6. The aerialist who trusted the rig. It was November 30th, 1990 in Las Vegas, Nevada. The performer was a veteran aerialist, part of a live televised variety special built around spectacle and precision. Her role was simple, but breathtaking. Rise above the stage, suspended by cables, and glide gracefully over thousands of cheering spectators. She had done routines like this many times before. She wanted clean timing, perfect balance, and applause that carried all the way to the rafters. The arena was flooded with light. Music swelled. The host announced her name. A camera crane tilted upward, following her ascent as she lifted smoothly off the stage floor. Above her, everything looked flawless. The rigging had been inspected. The cables were taut. Nothing appeared out of place. What no one realized, until it was too late, was that one critical connection point had been improperly secured during setup. A single failure hidden among dozens of components. Footage shows her reaching full height. She smiled. She waved to the crowd. The audience roared. Then the cable snapped. There was no scream. No warning. Just a sudden, violent drop. Cameras instinctively followed the motion before operators could react. The sound of the impact echoed through the venue, captured by ambient microphones. Gasps turned into screams. The broadcast cut to commercial seconds later. Emergency responders rushed the stage, but there was nothing to be done. She died instantly from catastrophic injuries. Investigators later confirmed equipment failure compounded by human error during rigging checks. Lawsuits followed. Industry standards changed. Redundant harness systems became mandatory for live aerial performances. But in that moment, millions of viewers learned the same truth in real time. Trusting the system only works if the system never fails. Number 5. The politician on air. It was May 13, 1985, inside a government office in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The cameras were there for a resignation statement. The man speaking was a state official facing sentencing for corruption charges. He wanted to address the public directly. One last chance to control the narrative before his career ended, to explain himself, to be heard. Reporters crowded the room, microphones pressed forward. The atmosphere was tense but familiar. Events like this happened often. No one expected anything unusual. He began reading from prepared notes. His voice was steady, measured. His hands barely shook as he spoke about responsibility, process, and the future. Then he paused. Footage shows him reaching into an envelope. At first it looked like paperwork. Reporters leaned forward, expecting a statement or letter. Instead, he removed a handgun. Confusion rippled through the room. Someone shouted. Others froze in place. The cameras, already rolling, kept recording. Without hesitation, he placed the gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. The sound was sharp and immediate. The broadcast cut seconds later, but not before viewers saw the aftermath unfold in real time. Emergency responders were called, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The incident shocked the nation. Broadcast delay systems were implemented almost overnight. Newsrooms reevaluated mental health protocols and live coverage standards, but for those watching live there was no buffer, no warning, just the sudden realization that television can become a witness to the unthinkable. Number 4. The race that didn't end. It was October 27, 1999, during a live motorsports broadcast watched by millions around the world. The driver was young, exceptionally talented, and deep into the final phase of a high-speed race where every decision mattered. He wasn't cruising, he was pushing. Chasing position, protecting momentum. He wanted a finish strong enough to replay on highlight reels for years. At speeds well over 200 miles per hour, bravery meant nothing without absolute precision. Engines screamed as the pack thundered down the straightaway. Cameras tracked the cars in tight formation, metal vibrating against asphalt. The crowd stood, many already shouting, sensing the tension that always builds in the closing laps. This was the moment where races are won or lost. Then a tire failed. Footage shows the car twitch slightly before snapping out of control. In less than a second, stability was gone. The vehicle veered violently, lifted off the track, and became airborne. At that speed, there was no chance of recovery, no correction, no second attempt. The car slammed into the barrier with catastrophic force. The impact was explosive. Debris tore free and launched into the stands. The vehicle disintegrated on contact, scattering parts across the track in a cloud of smoke and fragments. Commentators fell silent mid-sentence. The broadcast hesitated, struggling to cut away fast enough as viewers tried to process what they were seeing. Emergency teams were on the scene within seconds, but the damage was beyond survival. The driver was pronounced dead shortly after the crash. Investigations followed immediately. The footage was studied frame by frame. Safety failures were identified. The consequences reshaped the sport. Wheel tethers became standard. Barriers were redesigned. Speeds were reduced. Motorsport safety evolved because of that single moment. But none of those changes mattered to viewers who watched it live, because what they learned, instantly and permanently, was simple. Speed doesn't forgive mistakes. Number 3. The morning show stunt. It was February 22, 2002, during a local morning television broadcast. The segment was designed to be harmless, a break from headlines, a visual novelty to keep viewers from changing the channel. The guest was a skilled operator, someone who had worked with industrial machinery for years. He wasn't reckless, he was confident. And more than anything, he wanted exposure. A chance to showcase his work to a wider audience. The studio was brightly lit. Coffee mugs sat on the desk. Host smiled, laughing softly as the segment began. Nothing about the atmosphere suggested danger, but television runs on timing, and timing changes behavior. What the crew didn't fully account for was that safety procedures designed for controlled workshops don't always survive the pressure of live broadcasting. Guards can block the shot. Barriers ruin visibility. And when producers want a clear angle, compromises get made. Footage shows the demonstration begins smoothly. The machine hummed. The guest leaned closer, adjusting his position for the camera. A protective guard, removed earlier for a better view, was no longer there. That was the opening. Something caught. Fabric, a sleeve, a loose edge. No one is entirely sure. What is clear is how fast it happened. In seconds, the machine pulled him forward. There was no time to react. Screams filled the studio. The hosts backed away in shock. A producer shouted for the feed to be cut. Emergency services arrived quickly, but the injuries were catastrophic. He was pronounced dead shortly after. Investigations followed. Policies changed. Live machinery demonstrations quietly disappeared from morning television. And for viewers watching live, one illusion shattered forever. Television isn't a barrier, it's just another place where reality can break through. Number 2. The field reporter in the line of fire. It was August 26, 2015, in Moneta, Virginia. The reporter was in the middle of a routine live interview. Nothing urgent, nothing controversial. Just a standard morning segment in a quiet outdoor location. The cameraman framed the shot carefully. Although the interview subject smiled. Birds could be heard in the background. Everything about the scene felt safe. The broadcast went live. Viewers settled in. The reporter asked her first question. What no one on set could see was a man nearby, a former employee, recently fired, sitting in his car. He wasn't guessing when to act. He wasn't waiting for opportunity. He was watching the broadcast on his phone. Footage shows the interview begin normally. Then the sound of gunfire cuts through the calm. The camera shakes violently. Screams are captured on audio. The lens drops toward the ground. The signal cuts seconds later. Both the reporter and cameraman were killed at the scene. Investigators later confirmed the attacker had tracked their location using the live broadcast itself. The aftermath was immediate and far-reaching. Newsrooms across the country reassessed field reporting safety. Delays were reconsidered. Security protocols were rewritten. But no policy could erase what viewers had already seen. Because in that moment, live television revealed a brutal truth. Being on air doesn't make you invisible. Sometimes, it makes you a target. Number 1. The dare that went too far. It was July 9, 2003, during a live televised stunt show. This wasn't news. It was entertainment. A carefully produced spectacle designed to push limits, safely, according to the plan. The participant was a trained professional, experienced in high-risk performances. He knew the danger, but he also knew the reward. Applause, recognition, a flawless execution on live TV. The setup was elaborate. Safety teams checked equipment. Producers confirmed camera angles. Everything looked controlled, measured. But live television has no margin for error. What he didn't realize was that a tiny miscalculation, just inches, had altered the physics of the stunt. A shift in trajectory. A slightly different angle, enough to change the outcome completely. Footage shows the stunt begin perfectly. The crowd cheered. The timing was right. Then, it wasn't. The trajectory went wrong mid-motion. He struck the structure at speed. The impact echoed through the venue. The camera stayed wide. Too wide. Long enough for viewers to understand what had happened. Emergency teams rushed in immediately, but the injuries were fatal. The broadcast cut. The show was canceled permanently. Live stunt programming declined sharply afterward. Insurance requirements exploded across the industry. Because in that single moment, millions of viewers learned the same lesson at once. No stunt. No segment. No clip is worth a life. Live television doesn't pause for safety. It doesn't wait for second chances. And once something goes wrong, the camera becomes a permanent witness. If this video reminded you how fragile a single moment can be, stay with us, because the next story shows how close disaster can come before anyone even realizes it.